Poised for Exit is a show for business owners who want to achieve a successful exit based on their own terms. Your business exit will likely be the biggest financial transaction of your life, and for most, you'll have one shot at doing it right. The topics and guests we feature and the stories they share will provide valuable ideas and strategies to improve operations and grow enterprise value so you can achieve the best possible exit outcome. Now here's your host, award-winning certified exit planning advisor, Julie Keys.
Welcome, everyone, to Poised for Exit, the Exit Planning Podcast Show. Our special guest today is the president and CEO of a family business consulting practice. We're going to talk today about the work that his firm does to preserve family legacy in the family business. But first, a message from our show sponsors.
Are you a business owner getting ready to transition? If so, I recommend True North Mergers and Acquisitions as your confidential strategic partner. They understand your business sale isn't just about one buyer and the price, but what you net that counts. In other words, what you get to keep. When you're ready for a higher level of representation that delivers consistent results, contact True North M&A to do the heavy lifting of selling your business. Learn more at tnma.com. That's tnma.com.
Selling your business may be the furthest thing from your mind, but that doesn't mean you should wait to plan. At TrustPoint, we understand the nuances that come with selling a business and are here to guide you. From unlocking tax efficiencies to minimizing risk, we'll develop the strategies to ensure you're prepared. So, when the time arrives, you'll be ready to enjoy the best years of your life. Learn more at TrustPointInc.com. That's TrustPointinc.com.
For business owners, it can be overwhelming to start planning a transition or exit strategy, but it's so important to avoid unwanted outcomes and unexpected tax bills. The CPAs at JAK, John A. Knutson & Company, can guide you and help make sense of the numbers. Our firm was established over 90 years ago, and we've assisted countless companies with ownership transitions. Leaving your business is a process that takes time. So contact us today to discuss your situation. Visit our website at jakcpa.com. That's jakcpa.com.
My name is Todd Crow, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
All right, here we are in the studio, Poised for Exit listeners. We are with Dr. Jeremy Lurie, who is the founder and CEO of Family Legacy First, which is a family advisory, executive coaching, and consulting firm for family enterprises. Jeremy, welcome to Poised for Exit.
Thanks so much, Julie. I'm happy to be here.
So glad to have you here, and such an important topic. I have to tell you that of the 5.5 years that I've been producing this show, of the episodes that I've featured any topic having to do with family business at all, those are the ones that tend to be the most downloaded. So I'm super excited to have you here because you are truly a subject matter expert. And I know that we're going to run out of time because there's going to be so much to talk about, but we're going to get to as much as we possibly can because I know that you've got lots of pearls of wisdom. But before we do that, I would just like to have you start by sharing a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get here? It's I'm sure it wasn't a straight line, but maybe just for our listeners' benefit.
It's not. I keep thinking, I've had one job in my own practice for 22, going on 23 years now, but I feel like it's my fifth or sixth job every time I sort of go through the iterations on what I'm doing. Actually, it's interesting because, as a professional advisor yourself, we work with these multidisciplinary teams of attorneys and accountants and bankers and all these different people. So my dad was one of those folks. He was a corporate attorney. And growing up, he was your sort of prototypical baby boomer workaholic. And I started down this path of not wanting to be that, just sort of want to be more present with my kids and not wanting to be consumed by work. So that was a part of my background. But then what really got me into succession planning and family business, I watched my dad take 4 years to retire. And he was in corporate bankruptcy, and during the recession, you can imagine he got really busy. Mm-hmm. And he came out of that saying, I no longer want to do this work. Like, I want to live my life. And I was so proud that he finally got there. But it was a really tough process watching a baby boomer going through pre-retirement. And I just fell into the space with so many mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles who have built their businesses and don't know how to let go. And specifically with their, rising gens, children or nieces and nephews, sometimes non-family managers, who have never worked in big companies, don't know anything other than family business. And so to be able to play both sides of that, mentoring and coaching those leading gens out into sort of their third act in life, but then also helping bring up that rising gen to be better leaders because they just don't get the access to GE's Leadership Academy or Google's Innovation Center and things like that. So that has really been the journey, and PhD in psychology and 5 years in big firm consulting, and all that comes together in a really nice balance of getting people and communications and leadership, but also getting business and projects and how we improve performance.
Wow. Yeah, what a background. Like not only educationally, right? Professionally, but also personally. I think that that personal experience and actually having lived some of those the things that your clients go through, I know myself included, from being an entrepreneur my whole life. I just think that it's invaluable because you're taking it out of theory when you're advising them, right? Um, so
Absolutely.
so let's talk about your practice. You've got your work centers around family business and transition. You've got a lot of generational work that you do. How is it that kind of exit planning aligns with and kind of you walk alongside them? So how do you weave that into the equation when you're working with these companies? Because I know it's really complicated.
Yeah, it's a really good question and good place for us to start, Julie. Not all of my clients are looking to transition the next generation. I have a family business right now, fourth generation, 3 brothers. They have agreed they're going to sell. We're not passing it down to the 5th generation. So sometimes I get involved in exit planning and the sale like you do, but many of my clients are looking to pass down to the next generation.
Sure.
So for example, I have a 4th generation family business in Minnesota where you are based. When I first met this person, he was in his mid to late 30s, and he said, I want to honor my great-grandfather's legacy, and I want to create an opportunity for my grandchildren. And at the time, he wasn't dating anyone. He had just broken up with a long-term relationship. He sure was not married and had children, no grandchildren. And he's already thinking to the 6th generation.
Wow.
And that's so rare for people to have that tied back to family legacy. So for me, it really is about continuity and about legacy, not just business succession. But I will tell you, it is complex because a lot of our, baby boomer parents who are retiring at this point are very driven, dominant individuals. They're used to being in control. Helping them to become more mentors than managers is a challenge in and of itself. Getting those rising gens to really step up as leaders and not act childlike and subordinate themselves, but really promote themselves and their ideas and their vision is challenging in and of itself. You layer in the family dynamics of your shareholders and board members and others. And yeah, it's a very complex process, but incredibly rewarding, not just for us as advisors, but for that family, if they can really sustain themselves into the next generation.
Well, yeah, because we know that the statistics are not very favorable when it comes to the success of passing a business from one generation to the next. I know you know that better than anybody because you've been
I
doing.
do. The statistics are horrible.
I
My
know.
4th generation clients in the Midwest, they're at a 3% success rate to get to a 4th generation.
Wow.
And it's so shocking when you really look at those numbers and the impact of family business on society, the community service and giving that they do, creating jobs, all the statistics around how they influence our GDP, just in the US alone, forget globally. Family enterprise is the backbone of our economy, and we want to do everything we can to sustain those businesses.
Yeah, that is absolutely, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think about what turns the wheels of industry, and it really is private business, and most of them are family businesses. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that the professional services industry could do a better job of understanding, the intricacies of that work. And I just really, um, I don't mean to be gushing here, okay, but I just really applaud the
Mm,
work that you do because it's just so important. I come from
thank
family
you.
business on both sides of my family, going back 3 generations on both sides. So, I'm just saying that I wish there were more Jeremys out there.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you. You've shared your story with me before, and it's always great to contribute, for your
yeah,
listeners, because it is so important. We want to sustain these families and give
yeah.
them the tools to succeed in generation to generation.
I know that you do that. And I think that one of your primary tools, I think, when we were talking about this, one of your best practices is in helping the family businesses that you work with, um, generation to generation, set up and assemble an effective board of directors. And
Absolutely.
right, and the impact that that has had. I know that you do a lot of things, right? You provide a lot of services, and governance is one of them too. So maybe you could just speak to your experience in helping your clients with setting up those boards and what it's done for them.
Sure. I think it's a key factor to success from one generation to the next. Imagine your father starts a business. He's omnipotent. He can do whatever he wants. It's his business. His, word is what's going to happen. What he says goes, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
But come down to your generation. Let's say that you have two siblings and two cousins working the business now, or third generation. And, we get into these broader ownership groups where one person is no longer in charge. And it's really important for those family members who are in the business, for those family shareholders who are maybe not in the business, to have a professional board. I'll give you an example. So one of my clients I work with now, second generation and third generation ownership, second generation CEO, third generation family members who are in executive positions. They have a family board that exists of 5 people, 5 branches of the family. But those of us in this field, like you and I, don't really call that a board. We call it a family gathering, right? They show up once a year. They do the rubber stamp on the corporate minutes because they have to for compliance reasons.
Yeah.
Or in this case, they show up twice a year and pretend to have a board meeting. But really, it's the CEO sort of dominating the meeting and telling everybody what he's doing operationally. And you've got 4 other family owners who just sit there and listen. And then the meeting is over and the CEO goes back to doing what he's doing. But that business is struggling right now. They've had multiple cash calls for the business. The CEO basically just, demoted his nephew or realigned him into a different role on his own without going to a board to talk about. This is a shareholder in the third generation who's now been told he has a new job. I mean, you could imagine the dynamics at play when the board chair is technically that, executive's father, brother to the CEO. And so all these things happen when we have families that come together. The reason for a professional board is to help make better decisions, looking to the future about strategic investments, looking about how we can improve performance in the business, making sure that those family members do not fall into these traps of making decisions against each other or potentially for self-serving reasons. So I'm a firm believer in independent directors. I'm happy to have independent advisors. Most of our clients want to start with what they perceive as maintaining control at the board level. So they will involve independent advisors, at least to bring in, those industry insights and ideas from people who've grown bigger businesses or maybe have done market expansion, or they have sold and been through the exit process.
Yeah.
So either way, professionalizing your board with independence is key to success.
Yes.
But as you started with directors, I'm a firm believer in a fiduciary board, and having those directors have truly a liability and a responsibility from a fiduciary perspective to serve the shareholders. Advisors don't do that. They just show up and share the best of their ideas, but they don't have that same commitment where a fiduciary director is truly there to serve the shareholders.
I would think too that the board's responsibility, right, primarily is to help grow and improve the business and be strategic. Sometimes boards of directors get involved in the exit planning process, which I'm not so sure that that's such a great idea. And I know you said that a lot of your businesses are generally going from one generation to the next, but still, there's going to be some preparatory work, right? Delegation planning, things like that. So you're almost doing a little bit of pre-due diligence, even though they're not going to change hands. So have you ever advised, this is just something that just came to me, with regard to the difference between a board of directors and advisory board, have you ever had like advisory boards that, were assembled for a specific purpose outside of the board of directors itself?
Yeah, so for example, we're talking exit planning, right? I have that same fourth generation family that has agreed they're going to sell
Hmm.
rather than transition to the fifth. We created an advisory board, brought in independent advisors to support them.
Yeah.
I specifically recruited someone who sold his business, who came from a family business himself, third generation, did an incredible turnaround
Hmm.
before they had a strategic and quite frankly, an unexpected buyout from a
Hmm.
strategic partner. But yes, that's a perfect reason for an advisory board where they don't have fiduciary responsibility, but you're bringing them in for a specific purpose, like an exit plan. And you want someone who's been through that process, has dealt with M&A, has dealt with private equity, potentially has done, the relationship building with a strategic buyer. It's a great example of how you might use an advisory board.
And then if you're, say for instance, you've got a client, I'm just going to go a little bit deeper with this one. You've got a client who isn't quite sure if if they're going to transition all of their shares to the next generation, or if they might do a partial transition to subsequent shareholders, and then maybe take some chips off the table with private equity or another strategic buyer. I'm sure that you've had situations like that where it's been different kind of structuring, and you can kind of advise in all those situations. Yeah, I think where I'm
Yeah.
going with this, Jeremy, is I think that our clients a lot of times just think that these situations have to be all or nothing. And if I sell or if I'm going to exit, I have to be out completely. Or if I'm going to transition to my family, it has to be only to my family. But there's so many different ways that you can slice and dice this, right?
There are,
Y-
for sure. And
Yeah,
so in a matter of a short podcast, I wasn't going to get into complexity.
yeah,
That fourth generation family, full story, one of the three brothers doesn't want to retire. And one of the three brothers is really hoping for a sale that will leave him in an ownership position. So maybe private equity comes in, buys 60%. He maintains a 40% position so he can create value for his family branch over the next 5 to 7 years till he's ready to retire. So yes, there's so many different permutations on this. We've got clients who go to an ESOP, right? And they sell a portion to employees but maintain ownership. I wrote an article this past year on engaging your first non-family CEO. So I'm a big fan of family-owned businesses
yes,
that are non-family operated, right?
agreed.
That can be the best of both worlds. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, you and I could do another whole podcast on all the different scenarios
yeah.
families might go through. It is not an all or nothing,
And we
for
probably
sure.
should too.
I would be happy to. That'd be a great conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely get you back because there's way more to talk about here, and a lot of my listeners are family businesses. So let's talk about grooming successors, and the different generations and the different nuances with the generations. I know you had mentioned too that sometimes you have issues with younger generations who don't necessarily want to listen to the older generations, whether they're parents or uncles or however that shakes out. And you can come in, you and your team can come in, and you can help with facilitating the not only the communication but just kind of like the mindset. So let's talk a little bit about how you do that. How do you lead those younger generations and help them collaborate with the older generation so it turns out.
Yeah, that really is one of the keys to success here. And for your generation and mine, I can go back to the early examples I wrote about. I never learned how to drive stick shift with my father sitting in the passenger seat. That was never going to work for us. Millennials don't know what a stick shift car is. But for those of us who grew up in our generation, I mean, we learned from friends or other family members, other mentors. I mean, my dad never taught me how to tie a tie. It was my best friend's father who taught me how to tie a tie. And so, just those dynamics between parent, child, are not always easy. And for many of our parents who were phenomenally talented in their craft and were the entrepreneurs, they were the founders of businesses, they excel in that area, but don't always have the same energy and sort of emotional intelligence, if you will, to relate to their children or nieces and nephews and what have you. And so as an outside coach and mentor, I get to wear a very special hat within these families. I get to translate between parent generation of the leading gens and the rising generation. And often I actually get hired by that rising gen. One of my favorite client examples, this person was late 40s. He was technically president of his company, but dad's still CEO sitting in the corner office, and dad's using the business as his personal bank account to buy condos and things like that made him happy. And that's great. But when you can't run payroll on Friday because you just made the down payment, right? So anyway, First time I sit down
Yeah.
with senior in a conference room, senior says to me, Jeremy, let's get one thing straight. I am not leaving my corner office till you put me in a coffin. And somehow my body stayed present with this person because I know that my head got up and left the room, but my feet stayed in the seat. And I said, Senior, that's so great. Thanks for sharing, because I'm not a retirement consultant, but I'm guessing Junior's doing something wrong that makes you want to be here. And he said, oh my gosh, let me tell you about Junior. And then we became best of friends. Within 6 months, I had Senior say to his management team, Junior's in charge. I'm never going to stop walking the warehouse, but stop listening to me. Don't take direction from me. Junior is in charge. And that was such a powerful shift.
Wow.
But it really takes being present with that, leading gen
Yes.
to honor their contributions and as founders, what they've created, for the rising gen to help them promote themselves. What is your idea for the future of this business? What's your vision? Don't subordinate yourself like a child. I mean, I did a lot of things as a teenager to subordinate myself to my parents, but imagine I'm 48, I'm 52, and I'm about to take over our family enterprise. I can't act like a teenager anymore. And to be vice presidential, to be that COO, to step into a CEO role, it takes a lot of time and a lot of sort of emotional fortitude from both sides to do that.
It really does. Yeah. And I would imagine that your psychology background is invaluable when you're having these conversations with your clients because, man, yeah, I'm so glad that we know each other too. There's certain situations I get in and have been in over the years where I really need someone like you to come in and kind of help me with unraveling some things just so that people can move forward. I remember one
Yeah.
time I was talking with an attorney. They did a lot of family business work, and she just said when our families get stuck, we just leave them alone for a while. And I said, really? We just leave them alone for a while. I'm thinking, well, that's no solution. Too bad.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many exit planning, conferences I've been to where I shake hands with someone like you and you go, oh my gosh, I wish I had your degree in psychology, blah, 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 blah. And then I turn around and I meet someone else and they go, I am so glad I don't have your degree in psychology. And then they tell me what they're going through. So yeah, I mean, the personalities for sure. I'll just add one more comment about the rising gen. So I believe people do role appropriate work. If I am the director of operations, I'm going to act like the director of operations, but if you need me to step into a CFO role or the CEO role, that's a different role. And my uncle has that job or my mom has that job. And if I start doing that, I'm going to get looked at differently. So it's really helpful. The business consulting side of me looks at, okay, Julie, today you're director of operations and you do this set of things. I need you to learn the P&L and the balance sheet and everything under finance. I need you to learn sales because you're going to have the sales team reporting to you as CEO. And so we really take one activity at a time, a month, a quarter, whatever it might be, depending on my time frame. And I really do need to build up the technical skills of those rising gens while I am having that leading gen mentor them. And again, that takes many months, if not even years,
Of course.
and potentially some outside training and coaching and other things to get them promotion ready. You talk a lot about being exit ready. With the rising gen, it's about being promotion ready.
Of course.
And being able to step into that role.
And sometimes they just aren't, right? And
Absolutely.
and are you the person then that goes to the founder and has to gently let them down and say, I'm sorry, but Junior is neither interested or qualified to take this over. After a while, right? You try to work with them, but the spots on the leopard aren't going to change.
Correct.
And
We will tell them that.
yeah,
And that's where we go to a non-family leader potentially.
there you go.
But even imagine a situation, our second gen ownership, third gen family members in the business, there are 5 cousins, siblings and cousins in that group. And the CEO knows his daughter is his successor. I mean, she's just the right person, but he doesn't want to alienate his brother and sister and their children, his nephews. And so we get to help in that selection process of mentoring all of them.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, maybe it's not his daughter, maybe she's not the right one, but all signs would suggest that she is the natural, given her role, given other people's more functional roles. But we do that process as well of helping with selection, whether it is in that situation with multiples or the non-selection, if you will, that you started, where we might suggest that person is just not capable. You don't want to rely on them.
Let's wrap up with talking a little bit about, we're kind of switching gears a little bit here. I know that you're in Southern California and wow, what a long haul it's going to be to bring things back to normal for a lot of families and a lot of companies. Let's just talk about that a little bit, and what are you seeing there?
Yeah, it is definitely challenging to say the least. I mean, I can't get to LAX and I travel most weeks for work. I've got to go up around the valley because our main highway is closed and will be indefinitely.
Wow.
But as you talk about that, and by the way, I grew up in those areas. My childhood homes were gone. I mean, I have friends and family who've lost everything. I call my traffic an inconvenience compared to that scenario of true loss.
Yeah.
But as I've been studying sort of happiness over the last few years and learning about family harmony and how to keep families connected over time, not just in the business, but really in that broader family office or family connection, I'm just a firm believer. Happiness is a direction. It's not a destination. It's not a final endpoint. It's not today I'm happy because I've reached the peak of the mountain. It's I'm always striving to be happier. And we've learned not to ask people going through, post-fire recovery, how are you? We know how they are.
Sure.
I asked something different. I asked what's one thing that brought happiness and joy to your life today? Or what do you celebrate? We all have so many blessings in our lives. The fact that you and I get to do this work with our clients, we have such blessings. And so I try to celebrate the positive because I've been through post-fire recovery. I was out of my home for a full year. I know what some of those people are going through.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really proud to be at a point in my life and my career where I get to be more of that life coach and focus on happiness and what brings happiness to your life, recognizing the challenges and the adversity we all face. But as long as we've got some perseverance and grit, we know we'll get through that. Let's try to embrace those other positives for now to really carry us through.
Yeah, because when we've got those great personal relationships, right? The family harmony exists. Of course, you're helping them achieve that. But that's really the foundation to a successful business, right? Because if things are unraveling in the relationships, then it's going to be reflected in the business, and then it could definitely derail the business.
Absolutely. It's going to devalue that business before an exit if they do sell. I have too many client examples to share now where sibling rivalries, parent-child dynamics, or uncle-nephew dynamics in different situations, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
It really does impact the business performance, which impacts shareholder value, which impacts the ability to exit or monetize, that business, even if it's not an exit. And so, yes, I'm actually just really excited in my talks around family business and family office governance these days. I get to bring that up, focusing on family harmony and happiness, because I do think that's the foundation for success in the family enterprise.
I agree 100%. And I think that should be the topic of our next interview when we have you back on the show, okay?
I would love to do that. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Folks, this is Dr. Jeremy Lurie with us today. I'm so proud to have him on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Please share this episode with your colleagues, family, and friends, and join us again next time.